Welcome to the Top 7 Bible Stories Scriptures channel. In this analysis, we will delve into a fascinating and controversial historical event, an episode that raises profound questions about the figure of Muhammad. Specifically, we'll explore the story of Zainab bint al-Harith, a Jewish woman from the city of Khaybar, who challenged Muhammad's prophetic authenticity through an audacious act, offering him poisoned food. This event isn't merely about personal or religious tensions. It takes place in a broader context marked by suffering, loss, and resistance following the conquest of Khaybar by Muhammad's followers. The consequences of this story are not only physical, but symbolic, resonating through history with deep theological implications. We invite you to join us on this reflective journey through historical sources and accounts to better understand the significance of these events, including the painful death of Muhammad, the central figure of Islam. To understand this episode, it is essential to first set the scene. Khaybar, located in the Arabian Peninsula, was home to a well-established and prosperous Jewish community. The city had long been known for its stronghold-like fortresses and flourishing agriculture. However, following a series of confrontations, Khaybar was conquered by Muhammad and his followers. The aftermath of the conquest was grim. Many men were executed, while women and children were left vulnerable, forced into subjugation. Among the survivors was Zainab bint al-Harith, a Jewish woman who had suffered immense personal loss during the conflict. According to Islamic sources, Zainab, motivated by both grief and defiance, devised an act of resistance that carries profound, symbolic weight. Aware of Muhammad's claims of being a prophet sent by God, she decided to test his divine authenticity in a bold and dangerous way. Her reasoning was simple, yet striking. If Muhammad were truly a prophet, he would be under divine protection and would survive her attempt at poisoning. If not, the poison would expose him as an impostor. With this plan in mind, Zainab prepared a lamb laced with poison and presented it at a banquet attended by Muhammad and his companions. According to historical accounts, the sequence of events unfolded dramatically. As Muhammad and his companions began eating, Muhammad immediately sensed something unusual, a strange taste in the meat. He stopped eating after taking only a single bite. Unfortunately, one of his companions, Bishr ibn al-Bara, did not notice the warning signs and continued eating. Tragically, Bishr later succumbed to the effects of the poison. Amid the resulting commotion, Muhammad confronted Zainab about her actions. Her response was both direct and filled with symbolic significance. If you are truly a prophet, nothing will harm you. But if you are merely a king, the people will be rid of you. This statement was not only a challenge to Muhammad's prophetic claims, but also a defiant act of resistance from a woman who had endured tremendous suffering due to the conquest. Although Muhammad stopped eating before consuming a fatal dose, he did not escape unscathed. The poison inflicted lasting damage, leading to chronic suffering that persisted for the remainder of his life. Islamic sources recount that from that moment onward, Muhammad experienced worsening pain, often describing it with the peculiar phrase, "I feel as if my aorta is being severed." This vivid description, repeated frequently in his later years, highlights the severity of the physical toll caused by the poison. In his search for relief, Muhammad turned to various treatments, both traditional and spiritual. He underwent cupping therapy, a common medical practice of the time, and relied on prayers offered by his companions. In critical moments, he even invoked the intercession of the angel Gabriel for healing. However, despite these efforts, the poison had caused irreversible harm, and no remedy could fully alleviate his suffering. The circumstances surrounding Muhammad's final days have sparked numerous theological debates and interpretations. Zainab's reasoning behind her act raises an intriguing question. If Muhammad were truly a prophet, would he not have been under divine protection? For Zainab, the logic was clear. If he survived, it would affirm his prophetic authenticity. If not, it would cast doubt on his legitimacy. Interestingly, Muhammad's repeated statement, "I feel as if my aorta is being severed," carries additional weight when compared to a verse in the Quran. In Surah Al-Haqqah 69:44-46, it is stated, "If the Prophet were to falsely attribute any sayings to us, we would seize him by the right hand. Then we would cut his aorta." This striking parallel has intrigued scholars and sparked debates over its potential significance. Was Muhammad's suffering a natural consequence of the poisoning, or could it be interpreted as a symbolic warning regarding his prophetic claims? This event remains an enduring enigma, prompting diverse perspectives from both theological and historical standpoints. It exemplifies the complexity of the challenges faced by Muhammad and the profound impact of Zainab's act of defiance, an act born from loss, resistance, and a desire for justice in the aftermath of conquest. As such, it continues to be a topic of intense reflection and discussion across the centuries. Unanswered prayers are a poignant aspect of human experience, even in the lives of those considered divinely chosen. On one occasion, when his son Ibrahim fell gravely ill, Muhammad fervently prayed, pleading with God to spare the child's life. Despite his devotion, Ibrahim passed away, leaving many of Muhammad's followers stunned and searching for meaning. Some interpreted this event as a sign that even Muhammad, revered as a prophet, did not always receive the answers or divine protection they might have expected. Historical accounts reveal that the grief over Ibrahim's death extended beyond Muhammad himself. Maria al-Qibtiyya, one of his wives and the mother of Ibrahim, reportedly voiced her doubts openly. According to these accounts, Maria questioned Muhammad's role as a prophet, saying, "If you were truly a prophet, your loved one would not have died." Her words, laden with sorrow and skepticism, allegedly caused deep distress for Muhammad and, as the story goes, led him to divorce her. Whether or not this event unfolded exactly as described, it highlights the profound emotional and theological struggles surrounding moments of unanswered prayers. They raise questions about the efficacy of even the most fervent supplications and the extent of Muhammad's prophetic authority. Another event further challenges perceptions of divine favor in Muhammad's life. The story of Zainab, a Jewish woman whose family and community had been decimated during the conquest of Khaybar. Consumed by grief and anger, Zainab devised a bold and dangerous plan to test Muhammad's prophecy. She prepared poisoned meat and offered it to him as a meal, believing that if he were truly a prophet, God would intervene to protect him. Muhammad quickly sensed the danger and stopped eating after his first bite, but the damage was already done. He suffered long-term effects from the poisoning, and in his final days, he is said to have repeatedly lamented, "I feel as if my aorta is being cut." This haunting phrase has led to much debate, especially when juxtaposed with Surah 69:44-46 of the Quran. The passage states that if a prophet falsely attributes words to God, we will seize him by the right hand, then we will cut from him the aorta. For some, the apparent parallel between Muhammad's statement and this verse raises troubling questions. Was this an ominous warning, a divine test, or simply a human experience of suffering? Opinions differ, with some seeing it as a confirmation of his prophetic mission, and others interpreting it as a challenge to his divine authenticity. Zainab, for her part, remains a controversial figure in this narrative. While her act of poisoning is condemned as morally and ethically wrong, her intentions, however extreme, pose profound theological questions. Was she an instrument of divine justice, or was her act merely a human act of vengeance? Her challenge and the unresolved nature of Muhammad's illness have continued to echo in religious discourse, leaving her remembered as a figure whose actions and motives provoke deep reflection. The Bible offers relevant insights into the nature of prophecy and the criteria for discerning true prophets. In Matthew 7:15-20, Jesus warns, "Beware of false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? So, every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit." This passage underscores the importance of evaluating the fruits of a prophet's words and actions. A true prophet, according to this teaching, must demonstrate outcomes that align with divine principles and produce positive, God-honoring results. The Old Testament provides additional guidance in Deuteronomy 18:20-22. It declares, "But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, that I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die. And if you say in your heart, 'How may we know the word that the Lord has not spoken?' When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing does not happen or come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken presumptuously. You shall not be afraid of him." This criterion emphasizes that a true prophet's words will come to pass and align with God's revealed will, offering a clear framework for evaluating prophetic claims. When reflecting on the case of Muhammad, these biblical principles serve as a lens through which to examine his life and mission. The unanswered prayers for Ibrahim, the lasting effects of Zainab's poisoning, and Muhammad's own recurring statement about his aorta all provide moments of vulnerability and human struggle. For some, these events raise questions about his prophetic mission. Was his suffering a test of faith, or a sign of something deeper? Did these trials serve to strengthen his message, or did they reveal inconsistencies in his claims? The Quranic passage about the aorta, in particular, invites further scrutiny. For some believers, the fact that Muhammad referenced this imagery in his final days serves as evidence of divine testing and the mystery of God's will. For others, it sparks doubts about the authenticity of his mission, as it seemingly aligns with the Quran's own warnings about false prophets. This tension remains a point of ongoing theological debate. Ultimately, these events highlight the enduring question of how humanity discerns the divine. Zainab's bold actions and the controversies surrounding Muhammad's prayers remind us that faith, doubt, and the search for truth are intertwined. The Bible's warnings about false prophets, along with its criteria for identifying true messengers of God, invite believers to weigh every claim with careful discernment. For some, Muhammad's experiences reinforce his role as a prophet, navigating immense trials. For others, they provoke skepticism about the nature of his mission. The story of Zainab and Muhammad does not offer easy answers, but it does invite profound reflection. It reminds us of the fragility of life, the complexity of faith, and the eternal human struggle to understand the divine. In these moments of questioning, believers are called to seek truth, guided by the fruits of one's life and the enduring principles of God's Word. Prayers were offered to God to save the child, but tragically, he eventually passed away. This event has been interpreted by some as an example of the perceived absence of divine intervention, despite fervent supplication. However, in the Old Testament, true prophets, such as Elijah and Elisha, are often depicted performing miraculous acts and receiving answers to their prayers in visible and undeniable ways. In 1 Kings 17:21-22, for instance, Elijah prayed over the lifeless body of a widow's son, and the boy was miraculously revived. This act served as a clear demonstration of God's approval and affirmation of Elijah's prophetic mission. The miraculous deeds of such prophets highlight the distinction between true divine backing and mere human claims. In both the Bible and the Quran, the authenticity of a prophet is frequently measured by their actions and the results of their mission. In Matthew 7:15-20, Jesus offers a powerful teaching. By their fruits you will know them. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. This guidance urges believers to evaluate the outcomes of a prophet's work, whether they align with righteousness or reveal deception. The faithful are called to examine the fruits of those claiming divine authority, as their true nature is ultimately revealed through their deeds. The story of Muhammad's mission is marked by a series of challenges and moments of human vulnerability. For some, this stands in contrast with the biblical portrayal of prophets whose prayers were answered directly and whose actions unmistakably reflected the hand of God. In Jeremiah 23:16-18, a warning is given. Do not listen to the words of the prophets who prophesy to you. They make you worthless. They speak a vision of their own heart, not from the mouth of the Lord. This passage emphasizes that a true prophet must deliver God's words with integrity, without seeking personal gain or altering the divine message. It reminds us of the importance of discernment in evaluating those who claim prophetic roles, asking whether their words and actions align with God's teachings and whether their fruits authenticate their mission. There is also a historical account that during Muhammad's early preaching, many Arabs were skeptical of his revelations. Rather than accepting them as divine messages, some attributed his experiences to the influence of a jinn, a supernatural entity in Arab tradition, which they believed was manipulating him. This interpretation gained traction among critics of Muhammad, yet many of his followers rejected such claims. For these believers, Muhammad's experiences were authentic revelations delivered by the angel Gabriel, not the deceptions of malevolent forces. One of the most provocative episodes in Muhammad's life involves the poisoning incident tied to the actions of Zainab. For some, this event became a test of prophetic authenticity. Muhammad himself reportedly stated, "I feel as if my aorta is being cut," a haunting remark that has sparked debate among scholars and religious thinkers for centuries. Could this suffering carry symbolic meaning? Some interpret it as a profound test of faith that reinforced the prophetic narrative, while others see it as a detail that raises doubts. Regardless, the consequences of this event and the questions it left behind continue to echo, challenging us to explore deeper truths about faith, divine protection, and the nature of prophetic missions. The comparison between Muhammad's narrative and the biblical accounts of prophets brings into focus an essential principle. The search for truth must be conducted with careful discernment. Biblical teachings emphasize that anyone claiming divine authority must be evaluated against the fruits of their life, their alignment with God's will, and their unwavering adherence to truth. Just as Zainab's actions challenged Muhammad's claims, many figures throughout history have tested those who proclaim themselves as prophets, striving to uncover the divine or human origins of their mission. This call for reflection, grounded in both biblical wisdom and historical accounts, invites believers to remain vigilant. Faith must not be blind. It must be accompanied by thoughtful examination and a willingness to question. True spiritual leaders will demonstrate through their lives and actions that their mission is rooted in God's will. The Bible and other sacred texts teach us that discernment is an essential practice for those seeking to understand God's truth in a world filled with competing voices. Thank you for joining us on this journey of historical and theological exploration. If you wish to continue deepening your understanding of faith and spirituality, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications for our upcoming content. May God bless you abundantly, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.